and welcome to Shifting Gears, a show where we put the spotlight on the automotive sector. And today we are going to talk about a big and a major auto component player of the world, Schaeffler Group. Well, to discuss about the strategy and the road ahead for the Indian market and also give us a perspective on the global front, I have with me the global CEO of the company, Klaus Rosenfeld. Thank you very much for being on the show, and good to have you on this chat, because we are talking about the Indian market, which is pretty significant, and we know that you've recently come out with your numbers, which are looking steady and strong. So give us a roadmap on the numbers and the strategy in terms of the merger that you've embarked upon in the Indian market.
No, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me to this interview. It's always a pleasure to be here in India. We had today our first annual general meeting under the new name, under Schaefflerindia, and that is reflecting that we want to, implement here in India a one Schaeffler strategy. That's sort of the background for this. We have changed the name, and it's part of a merger transaction that we are going through at the moment. So now when I talk about the numbers, I'm talking about the Schaeffler India, the listed entity that was called FAG India before. It does not include all the numbers from the two other entities that will be merged by the third quarter this year. And as you said, the numbers were strong from my point of view. We saw in the first quarter growth of nearly 15%, 5.5 billion rupees, what is for our business a solid growth, clearly more than the average of the group. And we saw also that our EBT, earnings before taxes, grew by nearly the same number, close to 1 billion now, with 14% increase. I think these numbers speak for themselves.
Right, so that's a strong growth that you've seen, but with the merger now getting affected by the third quarter, as you said, how are you looking at this year? It's going to be an important year because a lot of elements get connected in the way you do business, and also with what has happened in the past. As you said, this is the first year of Schaeffler India to exist in this new name and a new avatar, if I may call it. So what are the projections on the growth story for the Indian market going from here?
Well, we are seeing India as the fastest growing country, or subcontinent I should say, in the world. It's growing faster than India. All in particular the industrial indicators indicate that there is a strong underlying growth momentum that will, from my point of view, continue throughout the year 2018. So the year 2018 for us is clearly a year of transition because we are executing and implementing the merger. But it's the first year of a continued growth trajectory from my point of view, where I hope that it will be strong. For us as an automotive and industrial supplier, we will benefit from both. We will see that the auto market that grows and has driven the growth in the first quarter 2018 will continue to grow. Clearly driven by sort of new platforms, by new vehicles that are at offering. And on the other hand, we see that also the industrial growth, think about the two-wheelers, think about the agricultural sector, think about the whole, manufacturing sector, where India plays a more and more important role, and where the strategy of Made in India starts to pay off. So that will support our growth opportunities, and therefore I'm very optimistic on the next years here in India if we get it right. All
right, indeed an opportunity, because there's a lot that's happening, as you said, and perfect really timing to be here in India and participating in the growth story. But let's talk numbers now, and to understand from you the kind of revenue that you have currently. I mean, how do you see yourself scaling up? When you say you will grow and you will grow strongly, what is it that you have in mind in terms of the year-on-year growth that you have projected or given as a target to your team to sort of leverage, since opportunity is immense? Of course, it's a very complex market and competitive, etc., etc. But even then, what is the growth looking like in terms of numbers? If you can quantify it.
Well, if I look at the consolidated Schaeffler Group, so INA, Look, FAG, now called Schaeffler India altogether, the pro forma figure for 2017 would be something like 40 billion rupees. That is something around 500 million euros. I think, being a little bit sort of aggressive here, I think we have a potential to double that number in the next 4 to 5 years. That is strong growth. It clearly requires investment. It requires more localization. It requires the right people. And we need to prioritize, because you need to be on the right sectors, clearly. But I think with our product offering, and don't forget, Schaeffler offers a very broad spectrum of products.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
We are, we're seeing, in particular in the auto market, with the further electrification of the vehicles, with the need to further reduce CO2 emission, we're seeing tremendous opportunities there. On the other hand, the industrial sectors, if they continue to grow, that will support this as well. And therefore, we have started here with the one Schaeffler approach. We want to reach out and build India to one of the most important countries within the Schaeffler portfolio.
Fair enough, and you did project in terms of the aggressive target of revenues, but what about margins? I mean, what's the kind of margin that you anticipate, India being a very cost-conscious market?
Yes, I mean, clearly, our business is a business that is driven by quality. We want quality first. If you compare margins, if you compare sort of raw material prices, if you compare efficiency, if you compare productivity, there's a way to go here. This is not the highest margin country we have, but it's solid. It earns the cost of capital. And again, growth and profitability go together. As long as you grow profitably, as long as you invest your capital wisely, there is tremendous opportunity here to create value. And that's what counts at the end of the day.
So the levels of profits that you're achieving now, you hope to continue, or you can better them going from here?
Well, we have a solid margin, I would say. The emphasis on growth at the moment, but clearly we also need to see what we can do in terms of improving our productivity. It will also be a function of localizing things.
Sure.
Because don't forget, as long as you bring certain parts from other areas of the world, if you pay logistic costs, whatever, you won't get the cost benefit. Yeah. So I think the idea to localize more should go hand in hand also with optimizing margin.
Okay, so how are the next couple of years, or maybe 3-4 years, let's say 2020, let's put that as a benchmark and say, in terms of localization, in terms of investment, in terms of capacity addition, as you have a variety of products, prioritizing which ones really will be your focus, etc., where do you see, if you can just segregate that and help us understand.
Well, I know that you would like to understand every detail there, but I'm answering it with a broad direction here.
Yeah.
We're investing today around 30 million euros.
Yeah.
It's increasing as we speak. It will probably this year be 40 million, and we will also, on an annual basis, double this. I think that's the target. I said this before when we announced the merger, and we're on track to do that. How we will allocate this capital remains to be seen. We have a lot of cash sitting here that also requires utilization. We typically like to grow organically, but I would also not exclude any external growth. So we need to see how we balance this. But most important is that Damisch and his team, and we have full trust in him and his team, that they can pull off this growth, that they come up with the ideas and come back to us and say, here's what we need, and this is what we can do best, and this is how we optimize.
And the group will support it.
And the group has a general commitment on India. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm on the board. That's why we have, put this project together. Right. But now to execute on this, how to see how we do it best, and what's the next step, how we sort of allocate what capital where, that's clearly a discussion within our strategic dialogue with Damisch and his team.
Okay. Electrification, as you said, is the big word and a buzzword, and the world is talking about it. So is India. You said there is obvious your time and energy which is being spent on it. What is it that the group is working on at this point, and where will your participation be, and how big will that be?
Well, we have in the past years followed a product strategy that was more or less focusing on the combustion engine. But already 10 years ago, people started to think about new type of powertrain solutions. And the group started to invest with that and started to understand what it is. Don't forget, we are a supplier. Yeah? We try to bring value to our customers by optimizing powertrain solutions. We believe that the future will not 100% electric.
Right. Okay.
Yeah? The big question mark is how much will be electric, and what does electric mean? Our scenario for 2030 says globally 30% of the cars being built in 2030 will be battery electric vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah? 30% of the cars will be combustion engine only, and 40% will be hybrid. That means, if you think that through, 70% of the cars will still have a combustion engine,
sure,
with or without a combination of an electric vehicle. And 70% of the cars will be electrified. And for us...
30%.
No, 70%, because the 30%
hybrid,
battery electric
yeah.
and also the hybrid is
Hybrid,
electrified.
sure.
And there will be a variety of solutions that could also be regionally different. I mean, in India, it's very much a question also of affordability. Yeah? And we're not talking about luxury cars only. So we need to think about solutions that suit the different markets. Yeah? And clearly it's driven out of China at the moment with massive investment into infrastructure, with battery that play an important role, with raw material that play an important role. We also, help to understand our customers that it's not only the concept how to optimize a single engine, but also what does it mean for the fleet? So are there different solutions next to each other? Is there mild hybrid and full hybrid? Is there 48 volt and high voltage solutions? So there will be a variety of things, and we feel good where we are at the moment. We have 8 serious contracts globally. 1 in the United States, 2 in China. We have good business in Europe. In India, we don't have an e-mobility contract yet, but it's probably also premature. Yeah? We're watching the Indian market. We think here probably different solutions will play a role. Think about an e-clutch that helps you to optimize a manual transmission by a simple device and can help to save CO2. That may be a very good solution here for India. So I think we need to adapt to the needs of our customers. No one should become nervous because of e-mobility. The combustion engine will play an important role.
And will stay. I mean, it's not going away so soon.
Yeah, and there's ample room to optimize that. But I don't want to sound like a Dino. Yeah? We will do both. We will do electrification and combustion engine. I think that's where the future is.
When you talked about some of the areas and new opportunities that you will see, what segments do you see there's a need for you to maybe enter or enhance your presence? I mean, where do you see your strength and where do you see a possibility of sort of working or growing?
In the auto space? Or
in the automotive and then industrial.
Well, look, the new powertrain solutions are all about mechatronic competence. So if you think about our core business, and that is typically mechanical engineering. So if you want to move into the world of mechatronics, you need to understand power electronics, and you need to understand e-motors. Because at the end of the day, the new powertrain solution is a combination of these 3 elements. On top of this, you need to understand the full system. Yeah? When I think about our hybrid modules, for example, or our e-axles, we think we have a, USP, as you call it, a unique selling proposition, because we understand these systems and we understand to make them smaller because of our mechanical intelligence. And that could be something that will help customers to make these more complex powertrain solutions still, smaller, more compact. That's, I think, where the interesting challenge is. And if we're going to think about the competence, we have electronic competence, but only little. We are not a software house. We can build e-motors. We understand them. The most important thing is that we understand this holistically. And that's also where our M&A strategy is geared to. We want to invest in that area and see wisely, no transformative moves, but bringing in additional competence there to do it intelligently. That's the strategy.
Okay, that's on the automotive. And the industrial space?
Well, in the industrial space, very good question. You have you have a similar situation because, our industrial business is very much a bearing business. And if with some sort of creativity, you can think about the bearing becoming a sensor. That only works if you, turn the bearing into a device that generates data. And that is, again, very much about mechatronics system know-how. Analytics, you need to combine this. So I tend to say we are an integrated automotive and industrial supplier, and e-mobility has a twin brother on the industrial side that is called Industry 4.0, because you need both the same sort of set of competence to build this. And, we're making big steps forward there.
I do see mobility for tomorrow is your theme that was talked about, and I think it is in line with what you're saying.
Correct. We organize movement, whether it's linear movement or rotation movement, whether it's in cars or machines. That's, I think,
Do you think railways could be a good opportunity in India to play? And
absolutely.
How big is your presence right now?
Well, railway is one of the 8 sectors we are serving in globally. and the Indian infrastructure investment in particular in interurban mobility and transportation is massive and very important. And we have very good business here in India. We're increasing. We have won some high caliber contracts. There are different types. There's freight trains, there's passenger trains, there's high-speed trains.
Correct.
We would hope that the Indian government continues with their investment into this public transportation.
No, there
sector.
is. I mean, all the states are already talking about it. So, what is the size, if I may ask, of the pie that you have?
I don't have this number.
But that is growing, you're saying?
That's definitely growing. The railway sector here in the first quarter was one of the fastest growing sectors. I think it grew by more than 30%.
Right. For you guys?
For us.
All right. So, and you think it will continue and you will want to...
Well, I mean, this is a long-term investment business.
Sure.
Yes, I think it will definitely be one of the strategic sectors we're following here.
Okay. R&D, because that becomes, again, a very interesting space. And a lot of global companies look at India as an R&D hub. How are you looking at it, and do you see an opportunity for setting up a base here of R&D?
Yeah, we have a base here. We have around 200 people here in India, and it's important. R&D is part of our value proposition in both businesses, and we think we need to grow that. If we want to grow the whole Indian operations, it's critical that also the R&D is localized. And we've just hired a new R&D head, and we are
in the process of roping in more people.
Yeah, and we are thinking about, as part of our localization plans, to also increase our R&D capacity and maybe build one or two separate R&D centers at the plant factories where we have.
Oh, so there is a massive plan of expansion on the R&D
Well, it's
side.
an expansion plan, whatever you call massive, but step by step and sustainable. That's important.
It's part of the investment that you spoke about in the beginning?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. And when you draw parallels with the way India operates as opposed to any other country that you operate in, where is it right now? I know it's a very important market, fastest growing, as you said. You have to be here. Your coming here signals that. But right now, what is the position, and where do you see that position reach up to the #1 position at some point?
In terms of
the business that you do.
In terms of the business, well, if Schaeffler is a 14 billion turnover company. If you think about the combined entity here, 500. So
4 years, it will be doubled.
Yeah, it will increase its importance. It will be an important part. The growth opportunities are high here. There's a large pool of young talent that we need to tap. People are educated well. They speak English. They have good computer literacy. That's something we are interested in. Also in the demographic development. Don't forget, India is one of the biggest population globally. So it's an important part of the global balance of power, from my point of view. And we in Europe, we must be interested to have good ties with our neighbors, clearly with the US, clearly with China, but we should never overlook India. I think India is an important element of a global balance of power. And we hope that continues.
Okay, you talked about Make in India, and that is where you are looking at localizing and all of that. What about the export market opportunities? I mean, do you see a scope for growing your business and getting some good returns on exporting out of India to some of the neighboring markets?
Sure. I mean, part of our plan going forward is to think about export strategies. On the export side, I have to say, it's very much a function of quality.
Correct.
Because the quality that comes from India needs to compete with quality that comes from elsewhere.
Sure.
And if you want to deliver Japanese OEMs out of India, you must make sure that we meet their quality standards. So I would think, it's not only production cost, that's one thing, but delivering a competitive product in terms of price, quality, delivery is critical. And I would hope that we can further continue to become more and more efficient, become more and more quality driven, and then I think the export will come as we speak.
So right now there is no.
That's only a small part of us. At the moment we are a net importer here in India.
Yeah, because the Make in India drive will actually help you achieve
Absolutely.
that. So you localize and you send it. Are you hoping to increase your OEM partners? I mean, are you serving to all, or there's a scope to?
Well, globally, we're covering a variety of let's say most of the big players, with the German players, U.S. players, the Japanese players, with different the Korean players. you know, we will continue with that. That's nothing new. And you know, we have good business here, in particular with the Indian players. So I think that will continue. I don't see a specific strategy that we go after one OEM or the other. It will be more a broader spectrum as we've done in the past.
What is your assessment of the Indian automotive industry growth? Because we've seen a period of a bit of uncertainty where you know, there were a lot of volatile period that manufacturers saw, with lots that had to do with some BS4 and BS6 and other issues. But your assessment of the growth of the Indian automotive industry, and what segment particularly you think will be driving the growth?
Well, I can't speak for the OEM industry. We are a supplier.
Yeah, but you know, your business, you depend on them for business.
Yeah,
so.
You know, we saw good growth in the first quarter. I think it's going to continue. Don't forget, the growth in the automotive OEM business is also, you know, driven by the regulatory environment. And I think the more the Indian population will go for CO2 efficient cars, the more the Indian government is forcing that, the more that will change. There's also another important element, that's the aftermarket. We see a growing fleet of cars, and we have not only an OEM business, we also have an important aftermarket business that we like to bring forward also in India.
Okay.
So that, I think, will also play a major role from my point of view.
You haven't yet introduced it in India, the aftermarket business?
Well, we have a small aftermarket business here. It's not comparable to what we have elsewhere. But it's clearly something that, you know, we should not overlook. I mean, people also repair cars.
No, there is definitely a big market.
And there's a car for maintenance, and there is a market that will also be driven by some sort of e-commerce solution. So that will become interesting as well.
So what role will you play? I mean, what do you do globally in aftermarket?
Well, we have just separated that activity into a separate division. So the automotive aftermarket is a global division. It basically, you know, operates in the United States and in Europe. It's a 2 billion type of euro turnover business.
Okay.
You know, we serve everything from the small garage to the OEM itself. And what we do, what is quite special for us, we're selling replacement parts. For example, if someone has bought a car with a loop clutch, if the clutch breaks, he would like to have a replacement part. But we're also selling solutions. We call them kits. So we would package not only the clutch part, but we would package it with a, you know, another, you know, let's do it very simple, with a screwdriver and some other devices that help the customer to solve the problem itself.
So that you give a solution also,
we
other
sell
than
a solution.
replacement.
We sell a repair solution. That's something that we do, and that is a very interesting business.
Okay, so that business has also an opportunity going from here as far as India goes, because aftermarket.
Well, not too far. Step by step. We need to see what we do, but you know, we need. So far, we have not been articulating a specific aftermarket strategy for India.
Stuff to sort
but there's all sorts of opportunities. Yeah.
All right. Wonderful speaking with you. Thank you very much, Klaus.
Thank you.
All the very best.